the line I always use is I never buy one of something. I buy 200 of something, right? So if I'm going to do something in scale and standardize across my enterprise, I need to know that it has gotten some type of stamp of approval. There's mine right there, right up behind me. There's our service team of the year. And 4 of those other ones. I don't know who does these other ones.
That would be mine.
Those are yours.
Actually, technically, they're yours. Just for clarification, Joe has never paid me for any of those awards. He earned them.
I would, though.
Jeez.
I've got to win this one. I bribed everyone in Hollywood.
George C. Scott in Man Getting Hit by Football.
The importance of awards in the AV industry, end-user specific trade shows, and best practices in setting up your AV network. All that and more next on AV Week. This is AV Week, episode 690, recorded Friday, November 8th, 2024. Bright, shiny objects. This is AV Week, your weekly wrap-up of the biggest AV news and information we have gathered. My name is Tim Albright. I am your host. With us, discuss the news and information. First and foremost, Dawn Mead from Parts Unknown. Welcome, ma'am.
Thank you so much for having me, as usual, Tim.
Absolutely. We can't tell you where she works, because if so, I will get thrown in jail, and I do not look good in black or orange. Joe Way, it needs no introduction, but I'll give him one anyway. He is at UCLA, Dr. Josiah Way, and also one of the founders of Hetna. Welcome, sir.
Thank you, Tim. Always good to be with you.
All right. And a young man who is new to our parts, so you two be nice to him, please. Jared Timmons. Jared is from Diversified out of their Atlanta office. Welcome, sir.
Yeah, great to be here, Tim. Looking forward to it.
Let's get this going. First story comes to us from AV Magazine, because quite frankly, it was their awards that happened this time last week. The event was held in London like it typically is. It's their annual Oscar-like event. They celebrate products and projects, the best the AV world has to offer. My buddy Chris Netto and I have been to the AV Awards a number of times. We broadcasted from the event several times in the past. It is a black tie affair. Like you're in a tux and tails. For those of us here in the States, it is an all out, to the nines, everything, every sort of fancy schmancy, attire thing you can think of. That is what this is. The other part, though, about the AV Awards that I learned through covering it, through broadcasting it, is their judging process. It is a rigorous judging process, several rounds, all sorts of really, really great things that they do there. Winners of this year included L-Acoustics, Shure Microflex Wireless, Exertis took home a number of awards, and then, of course, Epson. Dawn, we'll start with you on this. What do awards like this mean to end users, like a manufacturer or a distributor or company that you work with? What does it mean to end users to see that products that you're using or maybe considering using have been awarded by the industry?
My first thought was to say it means a lot. My second thought was to say, well, maybe not. It depends on the end user. In a lot of ways, winning any award is going to boost your credibility in the eyes of an end user. I think it means more to some of us in the industry who know who these magazines are, who these judges are, what the process entails. There are awards out there that you pay us enough money, we give you an award, fake things. But for the most part, it is much like getting a CTS or getting a different certification. Winning an award within the industry tells end users that may not be as familiar with the industry, this is a reputable company. This is a reputable product. And it's not just reputable, it's innovative. It's fantastic. It's top of the line. So as long as the end user knows enough to know the real awards, the real magazines, the real thing from the bad, I think it's a great thing. I think it's a wonderful thing. I know I encourage my coworkers that maybe aren't as much from the AV world to look at the awards that some of the products win before they start considering them. That way they know they're not a brand new product, hasn't been road tested, that sort of thing.
That actually is a pretty good testament, seeing what's already been awarded, seeing what's been out there. Joe, same kind of question is what does it mean to you as you're looking to outfit a campus or outfit, a college or a system that you're putting in? What do these awards mean?
Yeah, I think that they definitely do make a difference for sure. And I think because it just adds that the level of trust, right? Especially depending upon which awards they are, because there are, and I think Don kind of put to that, said that too. Because especially in higher ed, the line I always use is I never buy one of something, I buy 200 of something, right? So if I'm going to do something in scale and standardize across my enterprise, I need to know that it has gotten some type of stamp of approval, right? And these awards are ways of doing that, especially companies who are continually winning them, who are continually out there and always having something new. I think it's more the something over time. That's really where it makes it. And the ones that where you can kind of say, hey, this comes from something that's reputable. We you bringing up the AV magazine, the AV awards. There's mine right there, right up behind me. There's our service team of the year. And 4 of those other ones. I don't know who does these other ones.
That would be mine.
Those are yours.
Actually, technically, they're yours. What AVNation? They were AVNation awards.
Yes. But I think so. The thing is because the way the judging is done matters, right? Like, yeah. I think when you have ones where they put an esteemed panel together to be able to, look at what, really dig into, the submission and the value behind it. With yours, you have a group of peers and our people who vote and say, hey, this is what we believe in. HETMA, we run the Higher Ed AV Awards every year at Infocom, right? Ours is kind of it runs more along the lines of, AV magazines, where we get a group together to say, okay, where has the impact been in our vertical, right? And I think that's where there's value. And when you see these, especially at trade shows where people are getting the awards, it just adds that extra level of credibility when I'm looking at doing things at scale.
And just for clarification, Joe has never paid me for any of those awards. He earned them.
I would, though. I would.
They're worth it.
Don't tell me that. All right, Jared, different take here. You're an integrator. So from an integrator standpoint, and as you are talking to clients, right, and trying to solve problems that they're having, what do awards like this mean?
I think they're validation of innovation and stability and rigor from the vendor community, right? I think more so than ever, these awards become really important because technology is changing so fast that those people that are out front, that they're innovating, that they're figuring out different workflows or different technical solutions that really enhance quality or operational efficiency is critical for us. We monitor all of that because making sure that we can deliver the best of breed at the scales Joe's talking about, we don't buy really one of anything. It's hundreds or thousands of things. So I would say really being able to keep a pulse on what are the upcoming advancements in technology and awarding people for that innovation, as well as understanding these are the kinds of companies that are really always innovating, constantly getting awards. And really that's what our clients are looking for, is how they use this technology in a best of breed situation. So I think they may be more important than they've ever been as fast as technology is moving.
That's actually a really good point. The fact that you're right, because as technology is advancing, we need to get, quite frankly, somebody else's eyes on technology that we might be considering. Next story actually comes to us from AVNation. I wrote up an article about best practices when designing and deploying an AV network. Now, here's the thing. This is not Tim's Smarts. If this was Tim's Smarts article, it would be a 3-word article saying, I don't know. Okay, so let's start there. Got some really smart people around me. Folks from Netgear, Crestron, Extron, Avidex, our buddy James King from UNLV contributed to this and really helped me out here. And really, it was like looking at, as organizations, whether that is a college, a university, a Fortune 500, they are all relying more and more on AV over IP, as well as needing network for Zoom calls and digital signage and all sorts of stuff. So I wanted to kind of write something for in-house integrators, for the specifiers that said, here's the best practices, right? Here's what the experts are saying the best practices are. Success, according to our experts, it's not just about picking the right side, but rather understanding your organization's specific needs. Like, what are you trying to do? And what do you want to be able to do? What are the capabilities you're trying to do? We also dove into a debate that I keep having, and I'm chuckling because Joe and I have had this debate: private network versus putting stuff on the production network. Now, whether you are you're on corporate LAN team or private network team, it doesn't matter. Success comes down to planning early, making sure that you have really good documentation and a strong collaboration between both the AV and the IT folks. Quite frankly, it's moving more and more into, yes, this is a 20-year conversation, but convergence has happened. It's over. It's ended. So we need to start getting folks, getting the best practices and understanding, what it is we need to be doing. So, Joe, first question is, what are, from your perspective, the best practices when deploying and specifying an AV over IP system or an AV network?
That's a great question. And obviously, we have had this conversation, and I don't know if I'm an outlier. You cover, by the way, I just want to say this is an amazing article. It's one of the longest articles I've ever read. There's 1 million words in the English language. I think you used almost every one of them.
Almost 930.
I mean, but it is very comprehensive. And I think that, if you ask 100 people, you're going to get 200 answers of the best way to do it.
Yes.
Because I don't think there is any one right way. You kind of alluded to it. Where I am a big believer in putting everything straight on the production network. I know people would say, hey, no, but I believe that's how, as we start to look at how our not just our industry, but the world has changed, and that we have this integration of services, right? We have the idea where we want one holistic experience for us, for our students. I mean, Dawn might have a completely different, because of the sector she works in, might be a completely different answer. But for me, I know that we have students that are on their social medias. They need to connect to LMSs. They have other cloud servers. They're utilizing chats and stuff with each other. We want to connect to third-party integrations with our stuff. So I need to be able to live on an open, network that allows for that pass. And I remember at my former institution where I originally said to them, oh, by the way, I need every port to be at least 1 gig bidirectional in every port, full multicast open. And the look on their face when I asked for that. And they thought I was joking. I'm like, no, I'm not joking. And now what's funny is here we're building our network from scratch, and we have this great opportunity to actually give the requirements as we're rebuilding our network. And I said, I want 40 gigs bidirectional at every port, and I want that, and I want every fiber run to every room. And they're like, okay, we'll give you that. And it was like, oh, I should have asked for more. But I think that's a few of the key points in there is understanding your bandwidth and the need for, James actually makes a great point about, quality of service and understanding, hey, we can't have packet loss, especially if you're doing streaming. There's certain things that have to happen, and priority, of course, I mean, not even getting into what does that mean for cybersecurity, but to make your short answer or your short question even longer answer, I will finally say that I think it comes down to saying, where are you going to do? Are you just simply saying, I'm going to do a closed, concealed, classroom, which used to be fine, right? Everything was up. But now as we start being more connected, as we want spaces for remote monitoring and control and configuration, if we need that, if we know that we have customers that we're supporting, we have 4 different campuses. I might be supporting and sending content to and from the different campuses. I now need to have a backbone that will allow for that. So there was your very long non-answer.
It was an answer. It was 100% an answer. You can
I say throw it all on the network, throw it all on there, right, and let it be, and just have, but then identity management and access becomes another issue that you have. But that's a whole other thing that you can add 4 more pages to your article on.
I might do that. Jared, from an integrator standpoint, how do you advise your clients when you talk to them? What are your best practices when you're rolling out an AV network?
Well, I think adaptability is the biggest thing to start out with, right? I mean, you talk about 1 gig networks to 10 gig networks to 40 gig to 100 and on and on and on, right? We're going to use any amount of bandwidth that we can that's given to us. And I think the big shift for us as an integrator is we have to move from these worst case facilities that we're building out for a 20-year amortization timeframe to these adaptable content centers that allow our clients to ride that wave of technology that we were talking about at the beginning. It's not going to slow down. It's not on our timescales. And when we think about convergence, I don't think it's just the production of the IT networks that we're converging. We're converging now decentralized infrastructure and workloads that people are putting in cloud VPCs or maybe even public environments. You have remote workers that have to engage in these systems in different ways. And now we have the big buzzword, but I think it's even more of an impactful thing of everyone is now deploying AI payloads, deploying large GPU and compute environments that they need to use both in their IT environments and in their production networks. And as coming from the media side, which, we were using these high bandwidth connectivity in broadcast media for a long time, there was a similar debate about, do you put that on the IT network? Is it segregated into its own media or AV network? And I think what we're finding is that the extensibility of how we're using all of these, the video and audio, not just for outward communications, but for trainings and the reutilizable nature of content, requires us to rethink differently about this. I think that media is not going to be less of a capacity on our networks. It's going to be more and more. We operate under the hypothesis that in the future, all spaces are going to be intelligent spaces, and media is going to be the medium by which we collaborate in those spaces, whether that's a smart hotel room, a smart city, a smart stadium, or a smart classroom. And I think being able to take all of that technology, both from AI, AV, media, and utilize that in converged networks is the future, as long as we build those networks with an eye towards not where our clients are today, but where they need to go, and knowing that you just can't see 20 years into the future like we used to be able to see. And you've got to build these things to adapt to whatever the new technology that's going to come out in 18 months or 24 months time frame is going to be.
It's funny, you mentioned that you can't see 20 years in the future. That is one of the notes that I wrote down. I stopped asking 5-year questions.
Yeah.
And I've said this a couple times on AVWeek. I that was one of my standard questions, and I stopped because if COVID did nothing, it beat that into my head. You don't have any clue, Dawn, you'll have the last word on this one. What is your standard when you're rolling out an AV network?
Well, I'm going to have a very different answer than these two, and Joe kind of hinted at it, but between the vertical I'm in, the area of the country I'm in, and just the sheer size of the company that I work for, I don't deploy AV networks. The IT team doesn't deploy AV networks. The cybersecurity team doesn't deploy AV networks. We're part of like a giant group that gets together for anytime you build a room or a building or an entire new campus that has to get together and talk about the pros and cons, which networks within the company environment, security levels, the cybersecurity of even the open networks. Are we going to be using secure cloud? How are things getting in and out of firewalls? Which firewalls are they getting? It's far more complex when you're talking about thousands of buildings over hundreds of campuses. Oh, yes. And with many levels of classification and security, we have entire buildings of cybersecurity personnel. So it's a big ask to say, hey, what do you do for your networks? Well, my first thing I do is call the team and say, hey, are you the folks I need to talk to, or do I need to get team B or team C involved? And we all come together and put our heads together. I will tell you this much: in my own organization and several others within this industry, I know there's a lot of hybrid answers going on. Do you believe in on production network or separate network? Yes. It depends on the space. It depends on the building. When we are building those separate independent AV networks within a building or a room or whatever, a lot of times we'll then take a little feed from that to the production network for a monitoring system. But the monitoring system has to go through several levels of security to get there. Same with IPTV. We may deploy IPTV across the enterprise, but you have to take it locally, then hit, the retransmitters or the things that go through the firewall and encrypt everything and then decrypt it on the other end just to watch, the home and garden network in the cafeteria. But because of the environment we're in, that's the kind of things we look at. So I would never be asking our friends at Diversified or any of the other integrators out there, sorry, Jared, to come in and build us an AV network, because you're not gonna. In fact, you're not even going to touch our network when you're doing a room. We're going to have folks on hand from one of our many teams to do the network part and say, you plug in there and I'm going to watch you. So it's an entirely different world. So, looking at that article, looking at some of the big discussions we have within the industry, I mean, what is the correct way? Yes, they're all correct, depending on your specific environment and what you need. And sometimes the answer is all of them. Sometimes the answer is none of them. We can just put the room together and it's its own island.
All right, last story. It comes to us from our friends over at AV Buyers Club. Enterprise Connect is gearing up for what looks like A pretty impressive conference. The event, dubbed quote unquote "Charting Your Course," is bringing literal star power. That's an old dad joke because they've got a astronaut Mike Messamino. He is talking, as well as folks from Cisco and Zoom and a whole bunch of other folks. The conference is kind of a little bit of a pivot towards AI and automation. No shock there, with a brand new strategy and management track that signals how dramatically the conversation around enterprise communication has shifted. They've got over 60 sessions spread across 7 tracks, real-world case studies, pretty significant players as well, KPMG, Fannie Mae, all sorts of other folks. Enterprise Connect is trying to position itself as the compass, quote unquote, for companies trying to find their way through the increasingly complex landscape of UC and collaboration. It takes place March 17th through the 20th in Orlando. We will be there. AVNation will be there. I know Joe and the team at Hetma was there last year as well. You guys had a very nice session. So, Jared, we'll start with you on this. What is the value of IT and tech manager focused show like Enterprise Connect?
I think the value is really twofold. I don't know if I would have said this before COVID, because when COVID kind of came and we stopped doing all of these shows, I said, oh, we're going to replace them all with something like this that's digital. And then I think, quickly found that it's a woeful replacement. And I think that there's an organic need for human connection on top of the business we do, but just getting together with colleagues and being able to have conversations you just can't do in a short format or can't do over a webinar, and really being able to have that discussion. Then I'll tie the second thing back to technology is changing way faster than we can have it presented to us once or twice a year at a trade show. Right? And if we have to wait, especially as companies are building products and they're building more higher grade software technologies with AI, they're releasing things on a monthly basis, on a biweekly basis. And so having these, I would say, more in-depth touch points where we can not only talk about the technology, but the role of technology, especially as we're now bombarded with AI, we're bombarded with spatial compute, we're bombarded with experiential technologies, being able to have that time to dig in and to hear from these voices that have thought through this, I think is now more critical for everyone, not just technically, but from the human API or the human element of everyone as well.
All right, Don, same kind of question is what is the value of having events like this that speak directly to, again, the in-house integrators, the IT folks, the AV folks?
I'm going to get myself in trouble. So it has very good value and very bad value. The very bad value comes when the folks in the internal folks that go to the shows are sometimes IT folks, or sometimes UC folks, not specifically AV folks, and they see something shiny at Enterprise Connect, and then they come back and they want to put it everywhere. And those of us that know AV, or our integrator partners like, Jared, that might come in, and we're all just kind of face palming and shaking our heads like, oh, honey, no, that's not going to work. So that's the bad side. The good side is having a place where we can go and get some of that education. I haven't looked at all the program tracks at Enterprise Connect, but I think there is a lot of value in providing AV education both there and at places like Infocom, which I think over the past few years have had more and more end users than actual integrators and off the street type folks. That's the kind of place where you can get a good education, get a good grounding on the technologies, and make my job as an internal integrator with the AV background easier, because then I can talk to you on a more even level. And of course, it's incumbent on me to go and get the UC knowledge and the IT knowledge so that we're all talking the same language and all talking the same information and products. But I think they do have a lot of value. I think for every company and end user listening, make sure you send at least one AV person from your staff with your IT and your UC people, because you don't want to have them just shaking their heads when they get home. But in general, I think it has a definite place in our industry, a very good impact.
Joe, slightly different question here. We're getting into ISE season, right? Enterprise Connect happens roughly a month after ISE. ISE happens the first week of February. After that, you've got ISE West, you've got NAB, and then, of course, Infocom in Orlando this year. What sort of content makes the most sense? What is the most relevant content that these folks can create and produce to, honestly, to Don's point, to speak to the folks in charge of UC, to speak to the folks that are in charge of AV and IT in these organizations?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. Because it's interesting. It's funny. We had our just yesterday, our Infocom planning meeting for HETMA. I can't believe we're actually this far ahead. And we do. We put a booth at Infocom, but we also at Enterprise Connect and be being at ISE. So as an end user organization, we'd like to be there and be in front of people. And the conversation we had was, where is the magic sauce and who are people, what they look for? And we recognized it has to be a yes and answer, right? When you say what kind of content, well, I can sit here and go, well, I want to, I don't care. I want to network with my people and talk to leaders and talk to decision makers. But if I talk to my other peer, they're like, I have nothing to do with that. I need to hear what technology is coming down the road, and I need to know the trends that are going to be coming. And I talk to somebody else, and they'll have a completely different answer, right? And so I think it's that sense of, educating your vertical at the area. And that's one of the great things, like taking an ISC or an Enterprise Connect. And you have the sense where Enterprise Connect obviously is very vertical focused with UC, but they're playing well to the different verticals that UC impacts, right? You can't have higher ed anymore without UC, right? We're Zoomifying every single room now. We are having that connected, that hybrid. It is an essential part. See, I couldn't have said that a few years ago. That's why shows like that focus on that are important. You go to ISC, you have all the different verticals, but you have an entire hall that is solely for education, right? That says, we're going to give you content that answers those questions you're looking for. So I think the key is saying, hey, if you're going to go to a show and you're going to go to a show and you're going to show up and learn something at it, you have to know where are things going, because to just say, what you and Jared were just saying, that no one, you're not looking 20 years down the road anymore. You're not looking 5 years down the road. We're not even looking like what's going to happen next year, right? We're doing this at UCLA. We're doing a full rip out and a full redesign of all of our systems. And we're looking to do in 2 years. And we can't even know, 100% sure where things are going to be. And if we start planning for that, where's it going to be even after that, right? So I think that's where the value of saying, hey, we need to stay on top of what's coming. I want, and one of the advantage of these is talking to those decision makers. And that's for me what I look for, because I like the whisper rooms. I like the NDA rooms, right? Because that lets me know I don't want to install what you already have a SKU for, because by the time I'm done supporting it, it's already out of date. Right. I want to know the stuff that by the time I can get my budget through, because we all know higher ed is a very long buying cycle. Right. I want to know down the road, because I've got at least 1 year before I can present it, budget it, get it in, plan it. I only have 8 weeks to install during summer. So even my installation time is very set. So that's why even looking down the road is more important than what I can pull up on a website right now and see a SKU.
It only takes you guys a year to get things through the pipeline.
Sometimes longer. I'm just saying. All right. That'll be good. Thank you guys so much. Dawn Mead. We can't say where she works because, again, I'll end up in jail. But thank you so much. How do people connect with you?
Folks can find me online and all the socials at AV Dawn or Dawn Mead. And I don't get to go to Enterprise Connect this year, but if you're going, make sure you get Mike Massimino to sign your Big Bang Theory DVDs, if that's still a thing that exists, because he's also famous for that.
Dr. Josiah Way, thank you, sir. How do people connect with you or HETMA?
Don't connect with me. Go to AVNation.tv to
remind me why I have you on these things,
and a whole host of others. But you can find me. Oh, if you don't want to do that, then you can just follow me at TD Albright on all of the socials, or Josiah Way at Josiah Way and HETMA_org on all of the socials.
Yes, and listen to his podcast and go to Higher Ed. Their website, really, really great podcast they have over there too. So not just Joe's, there are other people that talk. Jared, nice to see you, sir. Nice to meet you. Thanks so much. How do people connect with you or Diversified?
OneDiversified.com is the best way to find us from a diversified standpoint. And I'm on every social media that you can think of as Jared Timmons. I know it's very cute, but I just went with the standard name.
Joe's not wrong. Don't follow me, but go by the website if you would, please. I say that I am actually starting to write on LinkedIn. If you really, really, really want to know what goes on between my ears, you can go over to LinkedIn. You can read my stuff there. How about that? I'll do that. But yeah, go by the website, AVNation.tv. That's AVNation.tv. You will find this program and a host of others. 2 brand new podcasts dropped this week. First, we had a special with Crestron and the New York Giants talking about the new draft room. As a lifelong Bears fan, it was kind of cool. Like it was because yes, I love the Bears and they suck, and that's beside the point. But it was as a football fan, it was kind of cool to talk to the folks at the New York Giants and see how they kind of leapfrogged into the 21st century with their stuff. So that was kind of cool. And then our buddy Steve Greenblatt and Rich Fregosa also have a brand new studio control talking about remote monitoring systems. So that is really cool. You can check out both of those at the website. If you're watching this on YouTube and you're tired of looking at my big dumb face, you can go subscribe to the podcast. So you just have to listen to me. That's it. And if you're listening to the podcast and you want to see Joe Way's awards and Dawn Mead's Fun Pops and Jared's drums, you can go to YouTube. So whichever way you want to go. So check that out soon. But go by the website, avnation.tv. That's avnation.tv. Thanks so much for listening. Thank you so much for watching. That's all the time we have for AV Week.
The network for the AV industry.
What are you listening to?
This
is AV.
This
is AV Nation.
This is AV Nation.